Good morning. Welcome back. Repose LLC Yoga. We are having a practice this morning, this beautiful fall morning, for exploring our practice in child's pose. There's many different ways that we can explore our practice, especially in child's pose. It's very versatile. It is a posture of rest. It is a posture that allows us to listen to the body, what's happening internally, and then adapt to what the body needs. I often find that when we cue child's pose with a few variations, the class is hesitant to try something that they don't feel everybody is doing. So at home is a great time and space to explore this practice. I am going to request that you find a few props today to try these different variations. If you have blocks, you'll want 2 blocks. If you do not have blocks, a few books stacked up can work for this. You'll want enough to do 2, and you'll notice a block isn't very tall, maybe 4 or 5 inches here. Actually, they're 4 inches. So take a moment before we get started, dim the lighting, put on some music, maybe a fragrance, whatever makes you at ease and restful. Find a few props. We're going to use a bolster for one posture. If you do not have a bolster at home, you might take a thick blanket and roll it up just high enough to get yourself off the ground. And I'll let you know when it's time to try that. So you can always pause this video, take a moment to find what you need, and join us. Find a seat. Start to close your eyes. Breathe in and out naturally. You might also choose to start today's practice by lying on the belly if that's an option you prefer. Just something that allows you to shut out the rest of the world, to just hear your body breathing. Start to deepen the breath in and out through the nose. Continuing that deep belly breathing. Drawing the navel in towards the spine. And this is different than sucking it in. We're not sucking, we're just pulling. We're actively using the diaphragm here. Deep inhale. Two more nice, beautiful, deep breaths. If anything is ailing you, discomfort that you know you have coming in today's practice, remind yourself that it is okay to skip out on anything that might aggravate any symptoms you're having. Nice deep inhale, reach those arms overhead. On the exhale, folding forward over the lap, just allow the chin to come in, sink down as much as you're able to, reaching forward. If you're already facing the front of the mat, you might stay there and just start to pull with the hands, rocking up onto the knees. I'm facing the wrong way on my mat, so I'm going to face towards the long edge, coming into that tabletop position. Take a quick cat and cow. Nice inhale, drop the belly, looking up, pull those shoulders back. And exhale, round the spine, tuck in the tailbone, drop the chin, really press into the shoulders. 1 or 2 more. And then start to sink the hips back onto the feet, coming into the traditional child's pose where the knees are just forward. Sink the head down. Hands might just rest where they are. If this version of child's pose is uncomfortable for you, I'd like to remind you to use the props that are available to you. So if you have a regular block, you can always rest the head onto a block like a pillow. You can always take a blanket and bring it underneath the knees. If it's too much on the knees, going that far back, you can always prop that blanket and it'll support you up a little bit higher, bringing the head down. From wherever you are in this pose, the toes start to bring them together where they're touching if they're not already, and then widening the knees about as wide as your mat. I find that the wider option of child's pose is about 50-50 with those that I teach the class to. Some prefer them in more and some don't. And I think it gives you space to drop your belly and chest all the way down. So depending on how your back feels, this may not be the best option for you, but I encourage you to slowly try sinking in. And if you decide, nope, that's not going to work, just bringing the knees back towards center and then finding that block or pillow or blanket to make it more comfortable for you. Breathe deep here. So the knees together or the knees wider apart is pretty traditional child's pose. I will often give you the option, just in case you're not thinking it is an option, but just reminding that yoga, everything is just an option. You could choose to stay in any pose for the entire practice. It is your practice. Everything that a teacher instructs for you is always just an option. But the arms can always be down at the sides. You might try that or play with it. Now we're in any of our variations. We'll be doing several variations of child's pose today. So just feel your way into it, play with it, make any adjustments, but more importantly, just breathe. And on your next inhale, start to bring the hands back to the mat, lifting up into table. Bring the knees under the hips. Maybe you need a nice from releasing the hips and knees. Start to tap the feet, just shaking out some of that tension here, maybe moving the hips side to side. We'll come back to a flat tabletop, curl the toes under. Start to press into the heels and lift up into downward dog, getting some release from those legs. Start to walk it out, bending one knee and then the other, pressing back, stretching out those tight calves. Press back to both heels, really pull that tailbone towards the sky. Looking up at the hands, start to bring the knees back down. Relax the tops of the feet. Nice deep breath in and out. We're going to sink back again into child's pose. We won't be there quite as long this time. Knees might be straight underneath you, or you might choose the wider knee option. This time finding your blocks. You might need to move them to you or move up towards them. And we're going to curl the fingertips over the edges of these blocks. So there's multiple heights to your blocks. I recommend trying them in the smallest height first, curling the fingers and allowing the forearms to rest on them, bringing the head down. By raising the arms, you raise the shoulder and it changes the stretch here. Allows you to get a little more lift out of those shoulders while you sink the chest down. And if that feels good and you want a little further stretch, try that next height up on the block. Curling those fingers over a little bit higher. Slowly sinking down again. Maybe it's too much. Maybe it's just what your body needs. And again, if you just had stacks of books at home, that would be fine too. You just want them to be roughly the same height and just enough to rest those arms on. Another option from here, if you choose to continue using the blocks, you might push those blocks until your elbows can come onto them, so a little closer to the body. Sink the head down. Start to bend at the elbows, bringing the palms together. Walk those elbows forward as you bring the palms, the thumbs come behind the head towards the neck. You can do this from the floor height as well without a block. I find it's a little more comfortable for me. Maybe I just need the shoulder stretch, but this is individual practice. So play with what's going to work for you, what feels good for you. And again, if it becomes too intense throughout this practice, because we will continue to lift out of and come back into child's pose, we can always keep the legs a little bit more lifted, not coming all the way down into that posture or putting a blanket behind the knees. So just play with your options here. Start to release the hands forward, coming back up onto the hands and knees and table. And again, any movement of the hips that you might need to release. Maybe we do some circles, bringing the hips down and back and then to the other side. Don't worry about what it looks like, just what it feels like. Feel your way into it. It is about the practice and not the perfection. And then start to curl the toes under once again. Lifting up into downward dog, release the tension of the legs, pressing back. Start to pedal the feet a little bit. And if it's all right for you, if you're able to do it, maybe trying to lift one foot into the air and giving a little bit of a hip rotation, bending the knee forward and then kicking it back. This is just an option. You might choose to just continue walking the dog, switching to the other side if you did take this option, just balancing it out. Coming back to both feet, pressing into the heels when ready. Inhale, looking up at the hands, bringing the knees back down to the mat. Walk the hands towards the body, rising up onto the knees. Inhale, arms overhead. Slight back bend here. Exhale, hands to heart center. One breath of rest. Release the hands down and then inhale, arms overhead, slight back bend. Hold this back bend for a couple breaths. Just a reverse pose from all of the folding forward. When you're ready, and the nice deep exhale, hands come down, heart center. Breath in and out. And relax the hands down to the side. For our next version of child's pose, I know we've been leaning forward, maybe the knees or the behind the knees are getting tight, so we're going to use our bolster here or a rolled up blanket from home. There's a few different ways. Usually I use this form of child's pose in a yin class when we'll be holding it for a long time. We will settle into this one for a little bit longer. At home, you might want to do it for 3 to 5 minutes. We're just going to do for about a minute in this video. So you can come into child's pose and lay with just your head onto the pillow. The posture I prefer is actually bringing that between the knees, allowing the knees to be wide and coming to actually sit on it slightly. The whole body and the whole torso are going to sink in. Allow the head to come down. Now I have large oversized bolsters, so it might feel different for you even if you have one at home. So just play with that. Maybe use a few additional pillows or something to get you there. Sink in. The arms are just relaxed onto the floor or again down at the sides, whatever allows you to find comfort. Breathe into it. Start to bring the hands down under the shoulders again. Maybe one more nice deep breath in and out. Starting to rock up onto the hands and knees. We'll remove that bolster. But one more thing to try, and we won't settle into it, but you could use a bolster as well as a blanket. Again, these ones are a little bit oversized and large for this, but you can always come to sit back onto that bolster or blanket and then come down into a child's pose. That will help take some tension off of holding that for a long time. Just something to play with. Again, I prefer a blanket or a much smaller bolster for that option, but I just wanted to give you a visual. From tabletop, start to stretch the right toes back, pressing into the right heel. Find some relief at the calf. Breathe. I'm going to hold this for a few more breaths. And then start to swing that foot out to the side. So the right foot is coming out to the right side. You're going to start to feel some tension, some stretching inside of the leg here. Hold it. And from here is another variation of this child's pose. So you might be able to start sinking the hips back. It might be too intense for you, which you might just stay up on the hands. Again, you can always use blocks to start to rest down onto the forearms if you can't come all the way down onto the mat. You might use the block for your head if you are able to sink a little lower. I'm just giving you all the options to play with here as you come back further. And you might choose a taller height of your block to bring it back for your hips to come sit on. You'll have to play with how far you can go here and bring the head down. Three, 2, 1. I know this is an intense one. Slowly start to come back up onto the hands, coming out of whichever version you were able to get into there. Slowly sweep that foot back behind you first. And then when you're ready, bringing the knee in, little rocking side to side. When you're ready, we'll do the opposite leg. Left foot starts to come back. Toes are curled under, pressing into the heel. If there's anything in the way of the foot onto that left side, just take a moment to move it out of the way. And slowly sweep that left leg out to the side. Same thing applies here on this side. Find how far you're going to go today. Take your time, sinking in slowly. Maybe starting with coming down onto the forearms or onto the blocks. Sinking back a little bit more. Tell the body to relax. Breathe into the tension that you're trying to release. Recognizing the difference between tension and pain. We want to remove ourselves from anything that is a sharp, acute pain. We want to just breathe deeply through discomfort and tension, those tight muscles and ligaments. 3, 2, 1, start to rise. Find those hands lifting up. Slowly sweep the foot back behind you. Take a breath there, and when you're ready, knee drops in. A little bit of movement to the hips. We're going to come and do a sun salutation just to get that blood flowing and some movement. This is called Namaskara A, and you've probably practiced it before and didn't know the name of it. Inhaling, starting to look up, curl toes under. Exhale into downward dog, lifting the hips, pressing back into the heels. A few nice deep breaths here. And your next inhale, looking up at the hands, walking the feet forward. Inhale, coming up halfway, lengthen the spine. Exhale, release it down, tuck in the chin, squeeze all the air out. Inhale, arms start to rise overhead, coming to stand with a straightish back, arms overhead. Exhale, hands at heart center. Release the hands down and overhead. Nice deep inhale. Exhale, hands come to the heart center as we bow forward. Inhale, just peek up, lengthen the spine. Exhale, soften the knees, fold it in, plant the hands, step the feet back to the top of the push-up. Knees can come down. Exhale all the way onto the belly, the bottom of the push-up. Inhale, head and chest start to lift. Nice arch the back. Lifting up to the top of a push-up. Knees can come down here. And we're going to sink into child's pose one more time. If your knees are still very tight and you don't feel ready for that, then you might keep the bottom lifted for this. But start to come down on the forearms. Bring the head down. And if you are comfortable enough to come into the full child's pose, you can sink the hips all the way back. Both arms are going to come down behind you. So we're going to actually bring the hands to the back. I'm going to reach for opposite hand or wrist. So if you're only able to grab the wrist, then that's fine. Just rest them down. If you're able to interlace the fingers, pull them away from the body. And here we're going to start lifting the shoulder blades together. So the shoulders are lifted up towards the sky. The shoulder blades are squeezing towards one another. If you're able, start to lift the arms up towards the sky. This is a much more active version of child's pose, integrating more of the back and shoulders. Exhale as you release the hands slowly back to the body. Once you relax the shoulders, start to release the fingers or the wrists. Hands come down. Inhale, rise again. We will do one more sun A as we just practice inhaling, look up, curl toes under, lift into downward dog. Deep breath in and out here. Inhale, look at the hands, walk the feet forward. Inhale halfway up and exhale to release down. Start to rise on the next inhale all the way to standing, reaching overhead. Exhale, hands at heart center. One more breath in as we inhale, reach overhead. And exhale as the hands come down, bow forward. Relax the hands down. Inhale as you peek up, lengthen the spine. Exhale to bend the knees, plant the hands, step or hop back. Exhale to the belly, bottom of the push-up. Inhale, head and chest rise. Let's bring the feet underneath, start to lift into a plank, just to stretch those legs out. Another moment here. Exhale, bringing the knees down. Coming into this table. A few more options to try on your own because we're running out of time for the day. Is to reach that arm up, bring it across the body, which we call threading the needle. Start to sink the hips back. That left arm can stay reaching and rest down. Again, going a little bit lower by opening the legs up and resting all the way onto the shoulder. So you might try this for right and left side. Finding your own time here. I hope you continue to explore what yoga can offer you, listening to what your body needs, keeping away from harming, and continuing to spend a little extra time with what your body does need and what is serving you. Deep breath in and out. Have a beautiful rest of your day. See you again soon.